Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Gregg Sussman, joined today by Tom Vecchio of FanDuel, who's here to take a look at the top stars on the board for week number 6. What's going on, Tom?
Week 5 got pushed back a little bit, but we're here for week 6. We're pushing on, and we're ready to go.
We are ready to go. We're trying to just be reliable here at FanDuel, and that reliability leads us to Adam Thielen, who seemingly is one of the most reliable receivers in the NFL. Yes, we get past Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams, who haven't played in weeks, by the way. You get to Adam Thielen, that even when Kirk Cousins is down, even when the Vikings can't score, Thielen still does the job. And at $7,400 this week as a wide receiver one, I think you have to like it facing off against that terrible Falcons defense.
The $7,400 price tag really isn't like a super premium high price that you have to pay for in what is a receiver in a great matchup going up against the Falcons. As you noted, they're allowing 35 FanDuel points per game to opposing wide receivers. That's the 8th worst in the league. We know that the Vikings have some injury news surrounding Dalvin Cook. Will he play? Won't he play? But regardless if it's him or Mattinson in the backfield, they still should be looking to Thielen, who has been super consistent this season. 22 FanDuel points or more in 3 of his 5 games. Why? Because he's a 35% market share when it comes to the targets in the Vikings offense. No other player is higher than 18%. So running back, starting, the backups in, when they have to pass the ball, they're going to Adam Thielen, and he has a fantastic matchup this week against the Falcons.
Really doesn't get much better than a matchup against the Falcons, a get-right spot for the Vikings, who are coming off that tough loss on Sunday night. And Adam Thielen's going to lead the way. Just $7,400 here on FanDuel. Like you said, not a premium price, but it'll save money for some higher-priced players. And those players include a guy like Derrick Henry, who's coming off an interesting game here on Tuesday night where he scored 2 touchdowns. Great, but didn't really do much else on the ground. The Bills' defense stifled him here. But you saw that upside with those 2 touchdowns and the ridiculous stiff arm, of course, to Josh Norman. Why do you think Derrick Henry continues on in the hitting pay dirt, but also gets more yards this weekend?
So he's in a really good spot, and I think you noted on the 2 most important things when it comes to Henry. One, we know he's going to score. That's because he has 90% of the red zone rushes this season for the Titans. He actually has 86% of the rushes overall. He had a very tough matchup last night against the Bills, but this week, things are much easier against the Texans, who are allowing 26.2 FanDuel points per game to opposing running backs. That is the 6th worst in the league. So we already know he's getting those high equity touches when it comes to the red zone, but now the matchup is a little bit better. This game actually doesn't have a total or, no team has an implied team total yet, just because the game was last night. But we're getting a consistent player who's now in a bit of an easier matchup and can push towards 20 FanDuel points yet again.
A much easier matchup facing off against the Houston Texans. Derrick Henry, 86% of the rushes overall, 90% in the red zone, you said. I feel like the only rushes he didn't have in the red zone were on Tuesday night with the game over and McNichols in there. That's it. That's why Derrick Henry in store for more touchdowns, more points, more yards. It's a good week to have Derrick Henry in your lineups. One final player to get to here, Tom, and that brings us to Mark Andrews, who is priced at $7,600. Of course, the week I used Mark Andrews a couple weeks back, he did nothing. Every other week, he just scores touchdowns. So you want a tight end that scores touchdowns, that's Mark Andrews, unless I play him.
Yes, speaking of those touchdowns, he has a 40% market share when it comes to the red zone. That's the highest on the team. He has a 20% market share overall. That's second highest on the team for the Ravens. Fantastic matchup this week against the Eagles, who are allowing 15.4 FanDuel points per game to opposing tight ends. That is the 5th worst in the league. And I kind of feel like this is a game that's really going to blow over the total. We've yet to see like a truly, I want to say, massive game from the Ravens. They kind of struggled here and there. They had a solid game last week against the Bengals in terms of real-life football, but there weren't a ton of fantasy points. So I love this matchup. I love Lamar this week. Love stacking him with Mark Andrews and getting all those red zone touchdowns.
The Bengals were the get-right team for the Ravens in the NFL. This week, we need a get-right game from a fantasy perspective, specifically a daily fantasy perspective. Tom believes it'll be this week. Pairing Lamar Jackson with Mark Andrews seems like a winning combination. But is that a winning stack? We'll talk to Jim Sanas about that a little bit later on in the week. But tomorrow, Tom and I will be back as we go over the value players that you're pairing with these stars to get everybody in there and that lineup full. Tom Vecchio, we appreciate the time. Good luck this week.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Have a great night, everybody. Get those waivers in. Start setting those lineups, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of the FanDuel Hurry Up.